So this guy told me to think of one word, any word, and I chose this word, and he guessed it. How? Tell me.
Psychology, suggestion, lying.
Ah!
I can read your mind. Ask me anything. My name is Tom DeVoe. I am 33 years old and I am a mentalist. I am what is called a mentalist, which means I'm an entertainer that uses psychology, suggestion and trickery to appear to read people's minds and influence their thoughts. It's my job to do amazing, impossible mentalist shows on stage, as well as close-up and now of course virtually for big companies here in Singapore and all over the world. I saw a mentalist on TV called Darren Brown, and I'd never seen anything like this. It was completely different to everything we had ever seen in terms of magic or illusion. Up until then, all that stuff had been weird, not very interesting, charmless old men, inexplicably always in a tuxedo, doing pretty trivial card tricks. And then came along this guy who could apparently read minds. And it wasn't psychic or supernatural. There was, he said, magic and hypnotism. It was a combination of all these techniques. So I set about finding all the possible books and resources I could on magic, stage magic, close-up magic, hypnotism, psychology, suggestion, memory techniques, all of these things that seemed like they might be useful. And I brought them all together and studied these different things and started performing when I was about 14 years old. So on my 21st birthday, I took off to India. And the idea was I would land in a new country every month or two and do as many shows as I could, do TV, radio, newspapers, just walk into venues and offer my services and hopefully accumulate enough money to stay alive, have a roof over my head, and eventually fly off to another country. And I did. I went to India, then Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, the Cook Islands, the US, and then landed back in London on my 22nd birthday. And when I was in Singapore, I walked into a random restaurant bar and offered my services and was hired for a show. And it was just a normal show like I always do. And in the front row was a girl. I brought her up on stage to do the second trick of the show and read her mind. And we recently celebrated our 8th wedding anniversary. People have crazy ideas. If I say, you know, I'm a mind reader, mentalist, I use psychology to read people's minds. Some people think, yeah, right, and I would too. If I wasn't doing this job, I would think this guy's, you know, full of it. But once I've shown them a trick or two, then I think they realise that, you know, this is real. And then there's a small section of people, more so in Asia, who are convinced that this is somehow psychic or supernatural, even if I show them some tricks and I say, this is what I'm doing. If I'm asking you to think of something, I am watching your mouth, the way you nod, I'm watching for all these little subtle clues. It doesn't matter. There will be a small group of people who will always think that this is somehow in league with various devils, spirits. I've heard it all. Absolutely. I would say every maybe 3 or 4 shows, there's that guy. And it is always a guy who deliberately wants to mess me up. A mentalist show needs the audience to go along with you, to follow what you say. If someone decides that, you know, if I say think of a word and they just decide not to, I got nothing. I've got nothing. And if they're that person, and I say to the audience, he's clearly just trying not to think of anything, they're going to say, no, I'm thinking of it really strongly. So there's always someone who will try and mess you up. Since February 2020, I've been doing shows virtually, and I've been able to do not just virtual events, but what they call hybrid events. So there will be a few people in the room, you know, literally, you know, half a dozen, sometimes less, and hundreds or thousands of people all around the world watching at home or in their places of work through a camera. And so I will stand on a little green screen, and everyone at home will think instinctively that I am in a beautiful tower block overlooking Marina Bay Sands, and it looks amazing, but I'm in like a weird little sort of green box, basically in a hotel basement. And that's the most fun I've had in ages, because that's nearly like performing for people pre-pandemic, in the before times. That's as close as I can get. So most of the show will be delivered at the camera, at people, but there are people in the room too that I can feed off, and the audience can actually hear actual clapping. But I will always remember every single one of those shows during lockdown. Performing for people who hadn't had much reason to smile in a long time, in weeks or months in some cases, was really something. If there's one thing I've learned from 2 decades of trying to read people's minds, is that you can't truly ever read someone's mind. We are too amazingly, fantastically complicated to open up someone's head and just have a look at everything that's going on. It's not like that. I am sure that everyone, no matter how successful, happy, confident they seem, everyone has their own stuff going on. And you can't tell. You just can't tell the things people are dealing with at home, at work, the struggles people have overcome. You just don't know. Express something about yourself from an actual, honest place. I'm sure that most performers do that. They thank the audience so much for coming out. It's something I hadn't really thought of doing. Just because as a mentalist, I'm supposed to be sort of big and confident and command people. And I thought that might make me look, trivial or maybe sort of too soft. So try and be yourself as much as possible. And if you are doing an act, be nice, and people might be nice back to you.